Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the primetime newscast in the English language on Canal International. I'm called Morindi and top stories. At a time when the population of the Northwest region is anxiously waiting from government the effective start of the reconstruction of the embattled Northwest and Southwest regions, the Minister Delegate for Economy Planning and Regional Development has for the past 2 days been presenting yet another initiative to develop Cameroon in the next 5 years. And the growing number of infection and disease linked to cholera remains a disturbing issue to the Ministry of Public Health in Cameroon. And the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paula Tanganji, has sounded a warning to faker food fractions piloted by Albert Bida to disease from their actions or shall be dealt with accordingly. Those are major stories. Details right ahead. Good evening once more. At a time when the government of Cameroon is the population of the Northwest region is anxiously waiting for the government has been in Bamenda to present yet another initiative to develop Cameroon in the next 10 years. Minister Paul Tassong has just left the Northwest region of Cameroon where he presented the National Development Strategy in Bamenda and Bambili, as we hear in the following story. The Minister Delegates at the Ministry of Economy, Planning, Programming and Territorial Development has been explaining a new government's option to step up development in the country. Parliamentarians, mayors, contractors, students of the University of Bamenda and other stakeholders in the Northwest region have been explained the contents of the voluminous National Development Strategy 2020-2030 in Bamenda and the University campus in Bambili on Tuesday and Wednesday.
The objective is to share with the university community the content of the National Development Strategy. We believe it is of essence that those professionals in the areas of research understand exactly the direction the government is giving to the future of Cameroon.
The technical presentations generated much anxiety in the audience, resulting in multiple reactions in the hall.
I would like you to think of how to organize the competencies of the regions. How to well organize the competencies of the region. You yourself will get a setback. Because all we are saying here, there is no frame, it is focused on how to organize competencies in all the local level, the regional level, so as to be able to use the resources which are being transmitted.
The 10-year development program aims at harnessing Cameroon's academic and youth potentials, especially in the science disciplines, which is today the pilot of global economy.
So if well in advance, we are given appropriate documentation, we can be able to function in a nice way with some
infrastructural challenges, but we also take advantage of the fact that having understood clearly what the National Development Strategy for the next 10 years will be, we will better insert ourselves both in how we do research and how we train students to be able to take advantages of the opportunities that will offer, and at the same time hope that the minister will take back our infrastructural needs and integrate them into this national development plan.
If government is banking on the young brains from the amphitheaters, then the poor road network and security around campuses should also preoccupy policymakers. The growing number of infections and deaths linked to cholera remains disturbing to a government. The cholera cases have been detected in the southwest and central regions of Cameroon. To contain its spread, the Ministry of Public Health has stepped up hygiene and other control mechanisms. As we hear the following story with Saleh Sherifa.
According to an alert from the Ministry of Public Health, Cameroon is witnessing a resurgence of cholera. The trickling information indicates that so far a swelling number of infections and deaths are being recorded across the center, littoral and southwest regions, with the death toll currently announced at Ekondo Titi in southwest region. We are going to make an inventory. The first stocks have been on process since yesterday, and we have also asked that they send us a state of need in case we possibly register a case. The cholera treatment centers are also in process of reviewing their capacity to accommodate and still resist intervention teams for the management of cholera cases. This disease, usually from food and water, like what happened to infected victims who were infected after consuming doubtful meal. So it is necessary to practice hygiene through the washing of the hands, fruits and vegetables with clean water, and ensure that our potable water is clean for drinking either by boiling, treating or filtering it.
Ministers of the African Regional Center for Labour Administration have lauded investments being made by Cameroon in the CRADA leadership. The remarks were made during the 43rd session of the Board of Directors meeting that held through a video conference at the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. More in the following story with our student journalist.
The evaluation of the activities of the African Regional Center for Labour Administration was made this day, November 3rd, through a video conference chaired from Yaoundé, CRADAT headquarters. Cameroon applauded for all the investment made and work well done this far. The mandate of the Cameroon Minister of Labour and Social Security, Gregoire Owona, renewed for another 1 year. The meeting saw the participation of 11 member states. Strides have been made, but a host of challenges still continue to reign, especially with the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic.
I think of the ratification of the revised statutes that we need to continue to persuade at the level of each member state. There is equally a problem of putting in conformity the different certificates, like the first degree and master's degree, delivered by CRADAT.
But thanks to the mobilization of all member states, patience and perseverance, the challenges are gradually being overcome for the modernization of CRADAT.
Stakeholders of the aquaculture sector are in conclave in Douala to boost the sector and to source solutions to the very high demand of fish, especially quality fish. Another objective is to foster local production and promote made in Cameroon away from reliance on exports. With the upcoming African Cup of Nations, the stakeholders are also thinking of not only providing quantity of fish. Let's get the views of the regional delegate for livestock fisheries and animal industries, Dr. Viban Victor, as occurred to us by Kejang Henry Atembe. Reaction of the regional delegate of livestock fisheries and animal husbandry.
To host a huge population and a huge demand towards the end of year festivities and also for the African Nations Cup in January. So we expect that there will be a high demand for fish and fish products. We are preparing stakeholders of the fishery sector to be ready for this demand, training them a little bit on hygiene, good hygienic practices for their staff, for the products and for their infrastructure, so that we should avoid intoxication and contamination of fish products during this period.
Different mayors in the city of Yaoundé have pledged to multiply strategies to eliminate urban disorder before the Total Energy African Cup of Nations. This as the Central Regional Governor continues with his sensitization message to immediate action within the council areas. As we end the following story with High Sencha.
With the heavy traffic plaguing the city of Yaoundé, Governor Nasseri Paul Biya announces stringent measures to liberate access to the different stadia as well as some strategic areas before the Total Energies African Cup of Nations in January. This as he continues his mission of involving the entire inhabitants of the nation's political capital into the fight against urban disorder ahead of the African biggest football tournament.
We want the people to understand that Yaoundé has to be clean. Clean from the state that we have it now to a better one. Yaoundé has to leave the ambience or the fever of the can. Yaoundé has to be prepared in all its different facets so that the strangers who are coming in terms of cleanliness, in terms of security, in terms of reception, and in terms of the hospitality that they know us.
The Central Regional Boss carried the sensitization and recommendation mission this November 3rd to the councils of Yaoundé 3, 5 and 6, an assignment the different mayors pledged to carry out with immediate effect.
All we want is that the visitors of our council normally should back to their countries with a very good image from our country, from our council. So we want to sensitize those quarters committees so that they should clean the quarters every day. We will divide our council because we have 144. So all those committees should clean, should embellish the quarters every day.
To concretize the action with the needed resources and put Yaoundé in order before the football event, Nasseri Paul Biya has summoned all the Yaoundé elites for a consultation meeting this Friday, November 5th, 2021, at the Yaoundé City Council.
And with a stalemate imposed by the waste disposal company in Douala and Yaoundé over unpaid salaries, the ugly situation has provoked questions on who is who in the waste disposal sector in Cameroon. Critics hold that councils should become main stakeholder in the sector. As we end the following story, Hi Sincha once more.
For 8 good days, inhabitants of the city of Yaoundé and Douala were trapped into heavy slums of garbage abandoned by the hygienic enterprise Izakam. These triggered varied opinions as to whether or not the activities of disposing waste should be left in the hands of Izakam. According to Izakam, their work is guided by a well-defined contract.
Il existe un partenariat public-privé.
We have a public-private partnership that warrants Izakam the collection of debt in Yaoundé, which corresponds to 1,350 tons of garbage per day. Mainly the mission to collect, sweep public and private places, transportation and treatment of waste. So Izakam works with clear specifications.
Il y a un cahier de charges qui encadre la prestation et l'activité d'Izakam.
The irresponsible throwing of debts by the inhabitants, who most often refuse throwing into the trash cans, make their work pretty harder and more time-consuming. The Yaoundé City Mayor, Luc Messi Atangana, says measures have been taken to demarcate the functions of the Izakam agents and council workers, though some stumbling blocks are still very much present.
La situation de monopole sera corrigée. Ça au moins je peux le dire, ce n'est plus une affaire de...
The problem of monopoly in the collection of waste has to be corrected. There is no further reflection about that. We are just looking for the first opportunity. We cannot continue with this monopoly. The volume of work is relatively above Izakam. Their monopoly exposes us to the recent situation. Izakam equally underlines that they cannot access some rough and untouched areas, and as such, the different quarters must mobilize and dispose garbage where their trash cans are planted.
Stefan Jana Anke is a new divisional officer for Douala 2 municipality here in Cameroon's economic city, Douala. He was officially installed today by the Ezio Huri with firm instructions to curb growing insecurity, urban disorder, land disputes, and many other problems that has placed or put the municipality on the spotlight. The senior divisional officer for Huri, Benjamin Ambutu, urged him to put a strong fight against banditry and uncivic behavior. Warning Douala 2 has been marked as red zones for criminality, with cannabis and other hard drugs sold in broad daylight. Born in 1983, the new DO Stefan Jana Care replaces Dr. Didier Bijak, who moves to Manjo in the same capacity. And the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Tanganji, has sounded a warning to faker food factions piloted by Albert Mbida to disease from their actions or shall be dealt with accordingly. The warning in a communique this November 3 underlines that the only faker food recognized by government and FIFA is that headed by Sedium Bombonjoya. As such, any other faction is acting in illegality. Tanganji instructs regional governors and administrative authorities to watch closely the activities of those he describes as impostors, especially at this time that Cameroon is bracing up for the Total Energies African Cup of Nations. The Minad boss reiterates that no faker food meeting takes place wheresoever without a written authorization from the civil administrator. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Newscast on Canal the International. Thanks so much for watching. We have news in the French language at exactly 7:50. This never Senkan will arrange this Lenkanga, but coming up next is the brief with Buban Gomna. So we'll be back tomorrow, same time. Good night.